on the Young Pioneer podcast, we welcome back aviation YouTuber and airline critic Josh Cahill. With hundreds of flights reviewed and millions of viewers following his brutally honest airline reviews, Josh joins us to break down the recent Middle East travel disruptions and share insider tips on how travelers can navigate airline chaos. I'm Justin Martell, and this is the Young Pioneer podcast.
저선주항 방송입니다.
All right, here we are. We are coming to you from our Manila studio, and it's the second week in March, and it's an exciting podcast because it's the return of Josh Cahill. I think it was about a year ago that we did your first podcast here, which turned out to be one of our most popular episodes. So, Josh, welcome back to the Young Pioneer podcast.
Thanks for having me, and what a pleasure to be back on your show, on your podcast, which is doing really well, I see. Very interesting episodes, covering some cool topics, and there's so much to talk about today as well. So, yeah.
I don't know if we're getting Josh Cahill and Swiss 001 show numbers, but actually I wanted to ask you about that. So you've just launched a show with fellow YouTuber Swiss. Is it Swiss 001? Swiss 001?
Swiss 001.
Okay, Swiss 001. Tell us about that right out of the
I love the idea. I always love the idea of having a podcast. When you have a YouTube channel, it's kind of having a podcast, isn't it? So, but a podcast gives you the opportunity to talk. Where we live in a world where the attention span of everyone is 12 seconds or something like that. You know, they go in X. Everything that has more 160 characters is too much. Now people start watching reels and shorts and all that kind of stuff. So I wanted something where I had the chance to explain myself in terms of aviation, how do flight reviews work and all these kind of things. So yeah, we started that podcast very successfully. Has a very good rating, 5 stars. On Spotify, which is quite of an achievement, and people love to listen.
Ours does too, but I think that's because my grandmother
has a lot of accounts.
Yeah,
Garrett probably as well. Yeah, but we had lots of rating. We have good numbers. It's so if you're into aviation, for everyone listening, we all love to travel, and whether you like planes or not, you have to get a plane to get to where you want to be. So yeah.
And speaking of planes, you've been in Manila here a few days now doing your plane watching, right, near the airport.
I always watch planes.
Okay, see them. What's going on for somebody like me who doesn't know too much about new planes or old planes, makes and models of planes? What's been going on?
Let's start easy. I'm here because I'm going to fly Philippine Airlines new Airbus A350-1000. Very geeky. So whenever something new is happening in the industry, whether an airline gets a new plane, there's inaugural flights and such, I usually chase them. I'm sure you said that in your intro as well, and probably people who Google my name, they probably found out about that as well. So yeah, I'm here doing a flight review on Philippine Airlines. Nothing major.
But what does the new Airbus mean for an airline like Philippine Airlines?
Longer distance, more seats, more efficient technology. So the Airbus A350 is kind of the counterpart to your Boeing 787 Dreamliner. I'm sure you've been following the industry struggles that Boeing has, especially, right? And the industry is getting very Airbus heavy because thanks to Boeing making poor decisions. But yeah, we live in a times where it's either Boeing or Airbus. Things are getting boring. I wish I would have born a lot earlier and YouTube would have been around. Then there would be a lot of variety. But yeah, that's why I'm here. doing a video on that and showcasing it to my subscribers.
Okay, and speaking of your subscribers, you've had a pretty big year online. I think your aviation platform's passed hundreds of millions of views, and you've been reviewing some pretty unusual airlines this year, right? Or last year. And tell me about some interesting flights you've taken recently. We'll get to what's going on geopolitically that's affecting things right now, but let's just talk about up until recently.
So, I mean, we just had a chat about least visited countries.
Yes.
So I was actually island hopping a little bit. I did the famous United Island Hopper, which I hope you educate your customers on when you take them on those tours, right?
Yes, yeah, we do.
Yeah, there's always that aviation angle, which I think is really cool. I went to Christmas Island, which is the furthest you can travel into the future. I think it's plus 14 hours of a time difference. The first country to welcome the new year. Great history there as well. You know, I like really to combine a bit of travel vlogs with the aviation angle because, like, as I've been doing this for 8 years now, it's really hard to find good stories because most of the stories have been told and you have to go to the most remote places. And Kirimati, or AKA Christmas Island, was one of them. Island hopping was a lot of fun. Tuvalu. You've been to Tuvalu as well?
I've been many times.
Did you go for, I don't know whether you do your morning runs sometimes, so you can do it on an active runway, which was a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, well, we take clients there for photo op, sunset photo op on the runway, and we like to ride the motorbike alongside. People have gotten in trouble many times for riding the motorbikes on the runway. Yeah.
You shouldn't, is it? I don't.
No, it's frowned upon.
Is it?
The authorities, but somebody just comes out and tells you to knock it off. It's not.
That's as long as you don't.
You're not going to do a night in the slammer in Tuvalu.
Yeah.
Not yet.
And then I was in Tuvalu, and then I said it's not the least visited country on Earth anymore because they get so many visitors because of all those YouTubers that came, you know?
Yes.
Great branding. And then I spoke to some officials there. And interestingly, they said they want to keep that branding because it's pure gold.
Yeah, well, it's just Tuvalu and Nauru would kind of trade off. In terms of...
My research said it was Somalia.
Well, least visited countries by location. I always define it when we do our least visited countries tour, which I always lead on every iteration. I'm about to lead another version of it in April, and then we'll be doing it in July, October, and December. We have 4 departures this year. But I always say that it's least visited countries, and we're defining it by by location. Because you have other least visited countries such as Somalia, Yemen, but that is because there's of conflict. So
speaking of Yemen,
yes,
I did go to Yemen as well. With YPT.
Yes.
You've heard of them?
I think so.
Yeah, fantastic company. So I did a flight review on Yemenia. And that was very well received as well. Like, it was good fun. Yemen was a great country to visit. I loved it. There was no Yemenia review on the internet yet. So thanks to you guys making this possible, I had a really good time. And great airline, by the way. And
so I was going to ask you, what were your impressions?
It was good. It was like, so we boarded in Egypt. Egypt is Cairo airport is one of the worst airports in the world. Always gives you a headache. They hate cameras. They hate to tell you that they love to tell you that you can't film there because it's not a security kind of thing. I think this is always an excuse when you go to those kind of countries, Nigeria or whatever. They say, "Oh, you can't film." They're more worried that you expose something that the public is not supposed to see because they're all really lazy there and they don't do their job properly. But when you get around this, had fantastic crew. The Yemenia crew was really lovely. They loved the camera. They loved really to show off on the flight back because YPT only provides economy class flights. Why is that?
Well, we haven't introduced our luxury brand.
You know that? You know what? I see it sometimes when you send out your itineraries, and there's always an option to have a single supplement, like accommodation. You maybe should say, hey, for $20 or for $200 more, you can fly business on the return flight for the aviation lovers. Just an idea. I don't want to make you rich.
I'll pass that along.
Yes, please. And so for $100, I upgraded was it Seiyun? Seoul, I think, in the end, and upgraded for $100. I had a fantastic business class flight on Yemenia as well. So I did the economy on the flight in, business out, and I always love flying those airlines because they're so unique. The audience loves it as well. So this is like what I'm primarily known for, the guy who flies the weird airlines.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, okay, so is that would you say that stands out the most among unusual airlines you've flown since the last time we talked on the show?
Oh, it's hard to say. It was definitely up there. It was definitely cool. But I would probably need to go through my YouTube because I posted so many flight reviews yesterday that I probably missing out on one. But let me go just to make sure that...
Yes, let's have a look. And just give people a little preview so then they can go to your YouTube channel and watch the full review.
That is right. So I was unbanned by Qatar Airways.
You were?
Yeah,
that was. We were talking about that.
So that was a big video last year. I got unbanned by the United States as well. So
and that was also a big.
Yeah. I got a 10-year U.S. visa. Thank you, Donald.
Congratulations! I'd like to think that it was our appealing to the U.S. State Department on the last podcast.
I'm sure. Like, a lot of things actually happened through my subscribers. If it wasn't for my subscribers, I would have never been able to go back to the U.S. Because there was a guy who works with the, Army. He does look after the vets and stuff like that. So, and he had really good connections at the embassy in Berlin. And then they said, usually they don't really go into cases when they once decided, we don't want this guy. But they did really like heavy background checks on me and stuff like that, making sure I'm not a spy, making sure I'm a nice guy. So they reached out to the Germans and stuff, and kind of worked out. And then I got a 10-year visa. It was funny, when I walked in the embassy, they already knew who I was. And then you have those two cabins interview. You always pick one where you think, I'd rather speak to that kind of guy because he looks nicer. If I talk to the other guy, I might get rejected. And I saw that guy always looking at me already. And then I came there and he asked me, so you want to go to America? I said, yeah. And then he typed. And I was already getting ready for saying, you've been rejected. And he said, yeah. It's been approved. All good. And when I walked out there, then there was there was this black guy standing there saying, hey, congratulations. And I was like, yeah, believe in miracles, waving my little slip there. And they knew that I was coming. But now I've been to the US many times ever since, especially after my Yemen trip. I was there and I said, hey, I went to Yemen. I wanted to report myself. That's the kind of visitor I am to the US now.
And okay, how did they...
They took me to a back room.
TSA deal with that.
No, he was
it's not TSA. It's
immigration office.
Yeah, immigration.
Yeah. So you get to immigration, and then I said, I landed there and said, I would like to report myself. I've been to one of the naughty countries, Yemen, 2 weeks ago, and I think they have a big file on me anyways when they open their computers because they always kind of know what I do. And took me to a back room, and there was no further questions or whatever. There was just a guy who went through my passport and said, hey, you're good to go. They just want to probably know whether I follow the rules. But once I think you have your visa, you can go to those countries.
Yes, once you have, they could use it as a pretext to revoke your visa. But I think if you're being transparent and letting them know, and you're in full compliance with everything, and there you go. So I see you've got your YouTube channel open. So what? That
was good. I flew on a smuggled airplane.
A smuggled airplane?
A smuggled Airbus A330 to Belarus.
Aha.
The sanctions?
Yes.
Yeah. So Belarus is heavily sanctioned. And they smuggled a plane in through a shell company in Dubai and the Gambia. So then this plane took off, was supposed to be sold to an airline called Magic Air. In the Gambia, which was run by a Syrian guy who's probably never been to the Gambia or doesn't know where it is. So, and then this plane took off in Dubai, bound for the Gambia, but miraculously, after takeoff, switched off its transponders and appeared in Belarus a couple of hours later. And,
imagine that.
Imagine that. Happens quite often. The Iranians are really good at that. They do that quite often as well. Or Syria at some point, but... So I flew to Belarus, Minsk, from Turkey on that plane, which looks kind of like it's like patchwork. Like the seats are from Qatar Airways. The seats in economy class were from a German airlines called Eurowings, and it was a cool story as well. I went to Nepal, Lukla, considered one of the most dangerous airports in the world. I think you guys do tours there as well, right?
Yes, we do.
I mean, I was talking to Gareth the other day, and I said, because we were thinking about doing aviation tours with YPT, hopefully it happens very soon.
And if and when that happens, we'll be doing another podcast.
Yes, absolutely. And there's good stuff. I did some really good content last year, right? Some good ideas. Things kind of worked out because sometimes a flight to Lukla can get cancelled, or when you go to Belarus, and they knew who I was. Interesting, really, when I landed. So I had to go for like secondary screening, and the guy said like, "So are you doing a video here on our airline?" I was like, how do you know? Oh, I just Googled you, he said, but I'm sure they kind of knew that I was coming, but they were really nice about it. And it was a great video as well. Like, I had a good time last year.
Great. Well, if anybody wants to see Josh's videos, why don't you tell us where they can see your videos, and then also if they want to see more, how they can subscribe and sign up for your...
They just Google my name, Josh Cahill, and it comes up. So that's there. So if you love aviation and you love to see weird places as well, like, they can check out my channel, and they surely will enjoy, because planes are beautiful to look at.
Sure are. So you mentioned Iran just a second ago. So let's set some geopolitical context, because that's actually why we decided to do this podcast. We understand that given everything that's going on with the war in Iran and the way that has affected the Middle East, and then also the travel world at large, as people are, we've heard from so many customers that people don't know how to get to their starting destination for tours. They're afraid to travel. They don't know what's going on. But we wanted to talk to you as an aviation expert, and also as somebody who I think you've got your ear to the ground with contacts at airlines and everything. So let's go over it. There's been some serious disruptions to air travel. And we've got airspace closures, and missile attacks have forced airlines to reroute flights and cancel services across the region. So from an aviation insider's perspective, what actually happens inside airlines when something like this occurs?
A lot of headache.
Yeah.
Definitely. So let's go back to 2014 when, remember that Malaysian Airlines plane that was shot down over the Donbass?
Of course.
And that is kind of the first time that airspace closure became a thing again, where airlines then actively started to avoid Ukrainian airspace. 2022, we had the Russian invasion of the Ukraine mainland, what the part that wasn't occupied at this time, Crimea stuff, and then as geopolitical reasons, Aeroflot, the Russian state carrier, was banned from entering European airspace, and usually most of the flights heading for the Far East going through Russian airspace, which is the shortest flight that you can take. So you had the Ukrainian airspace closed, you had the Russian airspace closed, and this is when then airlines started to fly mainly through Turkey, the Middle East, the Gulf, Iran, Iraq, Syria, after the civil war. That is the busiest route, and the Gulf carriers are the busiest airlines in the world. Dubai is the biggest transit hub in the world. The Middle East is within reach of 80% of the world population. This is why they are so successful. Obviously, they have access to cheaper gas and oil, which makes tickets more affordable. But it all comes down, it all bottlenecks right there. Now with the rise of Saudi Arabia, Riyadh Air, Saudi are heavily investing in aviation. That is a very vital region. And I think, was it the 28th when Trump gave the order to attack Iran? Ever since, the aviation world as we know it, collapsed.
Right, and so when something like this happens, do airlines immediately stop flying, or is there like a whole decision process involving safety, insurance, airspace authorities? What? What is that?
Obviously, there's NOTAMs, which
Yeah.
means warnings that authorities give out. But I'm sure that everybody knew what was coming, right? So the airlines were kind of prepared for it, but they don't know in which scale, what is going to happen. I don't think any of the Gulf countries expected Iran to be so aggressive in their response in attacking them. Because I think they were, okay, they might hit a base here and there, but they weren't prepared for swarms of drones, cruise missiles, and all that kind of stuff. So what airlines do is, airplane, the airspace is going to be closed because there's too many. If any civil airliner gets shut down, this is going to be the biggest PR disaster an airline can deal with. Because actually Iran shut down a Ukraine International 737 not so long ago when there was the first hiccup between, I think it was in 2020, when Trump decided to eliminate was it Soleimani or what the guy was called? The head of the Revolutionary Guards. Precise drone strike outside the airport of Baghdad. So you've been to Baghdad?
I have not.
Yeah. So when you actually arrive in Baghdad at the airport, you can still see like photos of him or posters of him where it happened. So there's this long street from the airport in Baghdad that leads to the city, and that's where he was taken out. And as a response, the Iranians fired missiles at the base in Iraq, and because the Iranians were so scared, but they didn't close their airspace to civil airlines, Ukrainian 737 took off at Khomeini International Airport and was then shot down shortly after takeoff. Everyone died on board. Massive tragedy. And I think this is what now happened as well. Like, so planes that were airborne, and Emirates, we talk about a fleet of like 200 plus planes, 777s, 380s, the biggest 380 fleet in the world, connecting Europe with Asia. Most of the Europeans prefer flying on the Middle Eastern carriers. You had planes coming from New York, flying over Europe. And then they're supposed they don't have much fuel then as well, right? This decision is now airspace is closed. What are we going to do with those 380s? Not every airport in the world can handle a 380 as well. So imagine what's happening at their HQ in Dubai. They say, okay, we have a 380 coming from Dallas Airport. It's right now in Romanian airspace. It can't land in Bucharest. It can't land anywhere near. We have to find an airport that is capable of handling a 380 as well. So there was flights that were diverted to Prague, to Munich, and they can't have too many 380s as well, because where do you put them? They're massive planes, 600 passengers, 650 passengers on there, double-decker. How do you do this? What are we going to do with the crew? What are we going to do with the passengers? So this is, I think, that is everything that unfolded at this very moment, while rockets were raining over Dubai. The airport was hit as well. You have stranded passengers. You have passengers that are going on their holiday to Bangkok. What are you going to do with them? So they started buying tickets on other airlines. It was the worst case scenario anyone could have dealt with, and I got to say they did a pretty good job.
Right. So, speaking of the job they did, what are the typical rerouting strategies, or in this case, what were the rerouting strategies that we saw?
Well, we saw that immediate grounding. So many planes didn't even take off. You still around Manila right now. So I landed here, and there was a Etihad Dreamliner 777 of Emirates still here on the ground. You still have crew that has not returned. You have crew sitting all over the world, and the airport was closed. So for the first 3 days, there were no flights taking off at all. Emirates then decided to fly the most important flights to London, bring holiday goers back to their countries, but also in a very limited scale. Qatar is not functioning at all because they are located a little bit more unfortunate, right, in the Gulf. While when you take off in Dubai, you can fly inwards towards Oman and then do a bit of a detour. What we also see is that Oman was not attacked in the first 48 hours because the negotiations were probably taking place there. You had Iranian officials on the ground there. Not that they care, I guess. But Oman Air was still operating. So people would actually take expensive taxis to Muscat, pay like $5,000, $6,000, cross the border, which was a complete mess there. And then they go on an Oman Air flight in order to get out. Private sector has been booming as well. So people were like trying to benefit of the situation. So what they do is they hire a private jet, they fly to Muscat and ask for horrendous prices and fly people wherever they want to go. Benefit of this as well, a big money business, you know.
Well, what example do you know of? Any crazy examples? Or
yeah, I've seen there's a lot of stories. Yeah, there was a lot of stories that people were just like hiring a Gulfstream jet, which can accommodate 14, 15 passengers from London. They fly to Muscat. Then they post on Facebook groups. They ask brokers, and they said, because there's a lot of people willing to get out, because not many people are willing to stuck in Dubai for work purposes. They want to go home or whatever. So they were charging horrendous prices, up to like $50,000, $60,000, and fly them just to the closest
per passenger.
Yeah, per passenger.
Okay.
Per seat, so they would make a lot of money.
Not per flight, per passenger.
No, per passenger.
You couldn't pool people together and split the cost.
Yeah, I think it was aimed at Dubai is a place with rich people.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to benefit.
So do you know anyone who did this?
There was a couple of influencers I saw, business people and such that did, and they flew out. And it's not like that they fly you to New York. They just fly you to the closest hub, London or whatever, like 5-hour flights, Paris or Istanbul. Istanbul was very popular. And then from there, it's like a 3-hour flight from Muscat, 3.5 hours. And then you're in Istanbul, and then you jump probably economy on the next Turkish Airlines flight.
Well, on the other hand, I have to imagine the people doing this and taking those types of flights are doing so because they can't afford to do it. So that's the market, I guess, brought on by this current situation. So in your opinion, which airlines handled this situation the best?
I think Emirates did. I think Emirates did really well. Or Etihad did pretty well as well. So they said all stranded passengers, we take care of them. We give them too much credit because in Germany or in Europe, it's a law when you're stranded that they have to look after you. They have to provide accommodation, food, and such. And Emirates did that on their own accord. They don't have such laws that say we have to look after them. But in Abu Dhabi, for example, Etihad says every stranded passenger, accommodation is on us. We take care of you. Where we sometimes underestimate how great we are actually in Europe with these kind of things, because that's a given. And that happens every day. If an EasyJet flight gets canceled, your $12 EasyJet flight, they have to provide accommodation, food, or alternative transportation. So this is something in America, they tried to pass that bill as well, but unfortunately, it didn't happen. The airline lobby there was too strong. I think it was under the Biden administration. But the airline lobby was a bit too strong and said, no, we're not going to pay for people being stranded. Why would we do that?
Right. Yeah, the idea of lobbies being too strong in the U.S.,
it's probably not something new, but airlines did a pretty good job. So there's not really someone you can handle, but I heard from the crews that are stranded, they're well looked after. The passengers are well looked after. Alternatives have been found for passengers. So it was something that I think the airlines had also time to prepare for, because they knew that the strikes on Iran are imminent. And it's going to happen very soon. So and airlines, they have departments for crisis management. The last time we had that hiccup, the 12-day war between Israel and Iran, and Emirates 777 was on the ground in Tehran for 2 weeks, and they couldn't leave because their risk assessment wasn't that great, and they tried somehow to get the crew out of Tehran while it was heavily bombed. So I think they learned a lot from the first incident. The previous war earlier, I think it was last year, wasn't it? That 12-day war. But I think from what I've observed, airlines have been in the Middle East have been doing an actual pretty good job.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's just go on some practical advice, and you've touched on some of this, but let's just try to do it real fast. So when faced with this type of situation, what is the first thing a passenger should do or look at?
Talk to your airline.
Okay. And what are the biggest mistakes people might make during this type of situation?
Stress.
Yeah, okay.
I think
like getting stressed out and taking
it out on the poor agent that has to deal with it. The best thing, the first point of contact should always be the airline. Even if you know that your flight is cancelled and you are near the airport, go to the airport, because it's easier to be helped there than being on a helpline, because it will take you a lot of hours to actually get connected to somebody.
Right, so if you're 20 minutes from the airport, rather than sit on the phone.
Pack your bags, go to the airport, and sometimes the airlines can book you on another flight as well. I was in that situation. I was in Frankfurt last week. My Air India flight was cancelled, but I know that Air India is a bit hopeless of an airline, so I got a refund straight away. But I went to the airport and I was looking at alternatives, ending up flying Mongolia Airlines. But
yes, I was tracking you in real time.
In real time,
posting updates. Yeah.
Ironically, flying to Russian airspace, and but the thing is, I was trying to, as soon as my flight was cancelled, I have a friend who works for a travel agency, so they have access to Amadeus booking system, so they see what seats are actually available and what not. And then there was Austrian Airlines to Bangkok. It said, 40 seats left on there. And I was like, okay, let me think about it. Give me 2 minutes. And 2 minutes later, Emirates bought all of those seats.
Wow.
40 of those. Tried Italian, ITA Airways and all that kind of stuff. So the Middle Eastern Airlines, they were ready. They bought all the seats to take care of their stranded passengers, because it's still a PR war, propaganda war, because you don't want to be that airline that is blamed and shamed on the internet because Karen is stuck in Detroit at the airport and can't fly to her destination somewhere in Malaysia, and making a fuss, So airlines were sure that, especially, we have to look after our premium customers. We have to look after Europeans. We have to look as like a perfect.
All right. So that was going to be my next question. So you obviously you have some contacts, so you can see things like through the Amadeus system and all that. But how can people that have frequent flyer status and that use that to their advantage to get rebooked faster in these types of situations?
Sometimes you have a line, if you like a platinum, super gold, elite, 5-star, whatever, I think, then you might have a dedicated line. But I can also imagine that they use those resources.
I mean, I'm platinum on SkyTeam, and I have a dedicated line, but still it's Delta US, so...
Yeah, no, but I'm sure that Delta could have probably been affected.
No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
They have told me basically I'm screwed in the past, but...
Is it? Yeah.
But when they can help, they do help.
I'm a McDonald's Gold member.
A McDonald's Gold member?
Yeah. So I get free... nuggets, chicken McNuggets with every order. No, I wish I was. No, there's no such thing.
If that's the case.
I don't even have a status, because I don't have loyalty.
Yes, well, exactly. Well, you're doing a different thing.
But I know the network. I know what I could have done, and I was looking at stuff, and I was like, any airline that is part of an alliance or has more than 10 planes is probably a bad idea to fly with. And I was looking at alternatives, and Mongolia Airlines was for me the only kind of way to get there cheap, and to not have another surprise. Because still, if you end up... I was looking at flights like Lufthansa, overbooked by 50 seats. Condor was to Bangkok. The prices went up to like $4,000 or $5,000. Because those... they have dynamic pricing systems, which are also like AI plays a big part in it. So AI can see how many hits do I get on this, and then... We don't necessarily want to blame the airlines being greedy, but because their AI tools are trained the way that as the demand goes up, the price goes up, which is maybe then looks like that, okay, airlines want to benefit off the situation. But I thought Mongolia Airlines, they fly to Russian airspace, so whatever happens, if the conflicts widen, I'm still going to be fine, right? And... So yeah, I was lucky and ended up flying to Ulaanbaatar, the capital of Mongolia. Have you been to Mongolia?
I have not yet.
No? Do you like horses?
I mean, Like, I've had horse meat.
You have horse meat, yeah. You're New Yorker, so there are no horses there. But I thought maybe you're like you spend some time with your uncle in Texas when you were like.
Well, they live. Well, my parents live in Atlanta, so my sister used to do horseback riding out there, and I mean, yeah, I went. I can't say I loved it. Anyway,
the connection is that Mongolia is known for horses.
Yes, I
horse
understand
riding
that. So yeah. Anyway, it's not really my thing, but you know.
Yeah. Some people love to eat horses. Some they love to ride them. Some they
some like to do
other stuff. Because it's like whatever floats your boat. But like, yeah, Mongolia is one of the least populated countries in the world as well, after Namibia. So, and when I landed, there was minus 24 degrees, and but I was so happy that I was kind of away, and then I made it to Europe, and I could tell when I boarded that flight on Mongolia Airlines, you kind of know what the passenger look like. When I go on an Aeroflot flight, I can go with you to the airport today in Manila, and I can tell you from at the arrivals, I can tell you who traveled on which airline.
That's
just a stereotype. So, and
have you ever done a video where you do that?
I should actually do that.
It's a good idea.
Maybe I get all of them wrong.
You don't want to get in trouble for stereotyping people.
Yeah, well, I think it's fun. It should actually be a cool game. We should actually go to an airport, but something like New York, where it's like really challenging, and then I can tell you, this guy flew in this airline. This is probably so.
That's great. We'll revisit that.
But when I was on Mongolia Airlines, I could tell that there's a couple of passengers that do not know which airline they're on, because they probably needed to be in Asia. And then looked at alternatives, and somehow probably had a friend called Josh who said, "Oh yeah, fly Mongolia Airlines. You will 100% end up in Asia." And then they were on this airline, and it's not like that. Mongolia Airlines is still flying Russian planes or something like that. They have the latest hardware. They fly American planes, 787 Dreamliner, fantastic product. So. It wasn't that bad, and the airport is brand new in Ulaanbaatar as well. Beautiful. It's like surrounded by nothing, and there was just snow, and it was just cold, and it was just very romantic. Actually, like, I love crisis. Does that sound weird? Well, I love crisis management.
Well, yeah, crisis management. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, that's what this episode is about: crisis management. And
yeah, that's right.
And so you went to Mongolia. And how many days were you there?
I landed in Mongolia. I didn't know I needed to be in Japan, because this trip was a little bit of reviewing airlines, and I had a flight from Bangkok to Japan on Air Macau, but I knew I was not going to get to Bangkok. That was too ambitious. So I was in Ulaanbaatar, but I think if I can get to Japan, I will, and I canceled my Air Macau flight, got a refund luckily, but if I can make it to Japan and get my Zip Air flight to Manila, then everything is fine. And then in Manila, I can do my previous schedule. So I was in Mongolia, and I realized that not many airlines fly to Mongolia. And if they fly, that's an expensive affair. So I was looking, and I was Beijing, $600, Bangkok, $800, Singapore, $900. And I was like, even like the closest Chinese city, Hohhot. Have you ever heard of Hohhot?
No, but it sounds like somewhere I should check out.
It probably has like a population of 27 million.
Yeah,
like
it's a
Chinese,
small city,
yeah, exactly.
But it's 27
and
million.
We never heard of like that typical Chinese city, but it's in north of if Rowan was here, I'm sure Rowan knows.
No, he would definitely know.
Yeah, he probably had 5 girlfriends
look into it, because Gareth and I have been doing every time we go to China, if we go to Beijing or we're there for we make a point to go to a shitty city, we say. But you weren't up for a shitty city tour, you're saying?
I'm always up for shitty city.
But in this instance, when you were looking at these flights.
I was looking at Hohhot, and I could fly a Comac plane, which is a Chinese manufactured plane. And
are those flown anywhere outside of China?
In Indonesia as well. Yeah, the Comac is now the big rival. Like it scares Boeing and Airbus. Let's say the Comac plane. We will talk about this much more often in the future. They introduced their first narrow body plane, which is like comparable to like a 737 or 320. The Comac 909 is this? Yeah, and they're doing really good. I mean, there's still 80% of the components are Western manufactured, like the engines, for example. Engines are really hard to master. So to create an efficient engine that makes sense. You know, everyone can do a jet engine, but like if you have a good efficient engine for a civil airline, and then this is where the money is at. But yeah, they're doing well. Their avionics are from Honeywell and still heavily reliant on American technology, but they are obviously trying very hard to make it a homegrown plane for a much cheaper price, and this is why it gives headache to Boeing, especially. And
okay, something to keep an eye on.
So yeah, probably in 10 years from now, it's going to be a big problem. When are you planning to run for office?
For office?
Yeah.
Me? No, that's way out of the question.
Way out of the question. I thought maybe you have some ambitions.
No,
then it would be your problem at one point. No? That's good. I don't know. Like, I was just making sure. So yeah, I was, I could do Ho-Hot, but I was like, no, not Ho-Hot. And then I found a flight to Seoul for $200 on an airline that I've never heard before, Air Mongolia. 2 planes. They have 2 planes. Wow. Very old planes.
Yeah.
But they fly there, and I'm an AF geek. I know airlines, but I haven't heard of that one. So I was like, you know what? I was doing a video anyways, how I navigate this crisis. Why not fly this absolute gem of an airline? It was.
And now, I think this is just what are your methods when you're in this type of situation and you're searching out a flight?
Yeah.
What search engines are you using? What sites might you use?
That's a good question. There's a good website called flightconnections.com. So you click on the airport, like it's a big map of the world, and you have all the airports in the world there, and you click on it, and then the spider web opens, and it shows you all the destinations, which airline. So this is what I go to usually, and it shows you literally all the connections that are possible. Like, half of my content wouldn't happen without this website, because sometimes when we talked about the least visited countries, when I was in Tara in Kiribati, and I clicked on the airport, I could see there's a long flight to Christmas Island.
Yep.
And I said, let's dig into it. Then you start researching, you see what kind of flight it is, and then you end up booking, and it was one of my coolest videos of last year. So yeah, this is the process. And then I look at Google Flights. Google Flights are always very reliable, and then I have to make a decision, what makes sense also in terms of content, and always love to add new airlines to my portfolio. And so I booked a one-way flight to Seoul, Korea on Air Mongolia. And it was great. I even got a hot meal.
Okay. And how was the meal?
The meal was fantastic.
Was it horse meat?
No. No,
Mongolian horse meat?
Now we're talking about stereotypes. It was rice and beef, I think it was.
Okay.
It was very simple but very delicious. And more than you get on your average flight in the United States.
Okay, so you had
luggage was included as well.
You had an American-sized portion on a non-American carrier.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's great.
So it was good fun. It was a nice flight. It was 2.5 hours. I landed in Seoul, and then you're back in the game, right? Seoul is massively connected. Right. You have 20 flights a day to almost any major city in Asia, and then I continued to Japan, and from Japan I came to Manila.
Okay,
here I am,
and here we are. And it's funny, I was thinking about this morning while I was in the shower.
You think of me when you shower? That's amazing.
I don't think we've actually ever met anywhere outside of the Philippines. We first met here in 2023, before I even lived here, and then last year, and now.
That's true.
Last year in the same studio. Yeah. And now here we are.
Like the majority of the time I spent with you was either in the studio here or that bar where we had that fight. Remember when I
places of ill repute.
Yeah.
Yes.
I saved you.
I got attacked by the two.
Yeah, like a Scottish guy. He knocked you out.
There was 2 of them.
And they were huge,
twins.
right? Massive, huge.
Yes, and I got knocked out. Yeah. And
I jumped into that crowd. That was like that fight, and there was Garrett all over the place, and I saw you on the ground.
Yeah.
And I pulled you out, like in action, World War II. I kind of felt like that. That's probably what my grandpa would have done back then when he met yours at the Battle of Bulge. And
I don't know that that's what your grandfather would have done to my grandfather.
Probably not. Probably not. But now we're best friends. Now you guys liberated us.
Right.
from the evil guy, and you gave us everything that we always wanted: democracy, McDonald's.
I was going to say chicken McNuggets,
McDonald's, TV. Radios.
You had TV and radio before.
We did, but they only had one channel, and it was. You gave us everything. You gave us capitalism. That's beautiful, and the others, they got communism.
Yes.
Yeah, and then the wall came down, and where did the people run to? Which side?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They went west.
Yeah.
Yep.
It is, and they always go west, and they always complain about the west. But I've never seen anyone run to Pakistan. Have you?
Moving right along to some of the other questions that I have. So coming back to crisis management, I want to ask you real fast, and this is it'll be a regional thing. So I want to go through different regional divisions for airlines. I want to ask you, I'll name a region, and you tell me which airline you think is the best at handling these types of, or best customer service for handling flight disruptions or anything like that.
That's a cool game.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right, Latin America.
Ooh. Latin America luckily has no crises, generally. But Latin America doesn't have a good reputation for good airlines. So the big player there is LATAM and Copa in Panama. They are usually quite reliable. But from all the continents that I've traveled and I've done videos, and Latin America is always a big headache. And when that Venezuela thing kind of happened, a lot of flight cancellation happened there as well. So I wouldn't vouch.
The situation is pretty stabilized now.
Yeah, it's stabilized there as well. I've been to Conviasa, the national airline of Venezuela as well. Good fun. As I said that I think in the previous episode when we were recording, everywhere where sanctions are, you find great airlines and great stories. And Venezuela is one of them, and Cuba. But Latin America, I'm not a big fan of Latin Americans airlines. They're all miserable. They're all bankrupt. Most of them. Avianca used to be a great one, went bankrupt. They all struggle. There's not really one where you say, wow, they're good.
Is there any lesser of the evils that comes to mind?
LATAM is probably the best because they have the biggest network. Copa is pretty good if you want to fly through Panama. They're good, but South America generally avoid.
Okay, all right. I deal with this all the time, coordinating LVC, and the it's the airlines can be pretty challenging, but Pacific, and I don't think you're going to say Nauru Airlines, not to disparage our friends at Nauru Airlines who do so much for our Pacific tours, but
I was told by someone at YPT that I can never, ever speak about Nauru Airlines. So I have a non-disclosure
Well, the thing
agreement.
is that they have a monopoly on this,
I find them fantastic.
Okay, so they've always helped. They've been very helpful for us. We have partners there.
Yeah,
they give us great rates for our tours and all of that.
Yeah.
But it's challenging because of the amount of planes that they have in their fleet and the amount of territory that they're covering, right? And so when there's an issue with they have issues with the lights working on the runway in Tarawa at night, and if the flights even get ever so slightly delayed, all of a sudden, the pilot has to make the call as you're coming into Tarawa. Is he going to land on the runway and risk it because the lights aren't working, or is he just going to bypass Tarawa and land everybody in Nauru unexpectedly? Those are the types of things that happen.
It is challenging for airlines.
Yeah, because Fiji Airways.
Fiji Airways
always gets awards for excellence.
Yeah, they're great. I mean, they have an easier network. Nandi, their airport there, they have a great hub, and they have everything on the ground that they need.
A tremendous lounge at the Nandi airport.
I don't think I've been to that lounge.
That's a very nice lounge.
Yeah. I think when you travel the Pacific, you do island hopping for a couple of weeks, you can go anywhere and it's great because it's tough. I found that challenging there because, it's fun, but it's very limited as well there. And this is why I think aviation there is so crucial because they supply, and without aviation there, things wouldn't be working at all. And I find it fascinating that you can fly to Christmas Island and back and go to such remote places because Nauru Airlines or those airlines operate these flights, which are expensive as well. When I was on that 4.5-hour flight from Tarawa to Banana is actually London.
Yes,
London. There was Banana, like London. There were 50 passengers on that flight, and those flights are heavily subsidized because otherwise they wouldn't be going. So the Pacific is very, very different. Or look at Tuvalu and stuff like that. Those runways, like they were essential that everything works. And aviation there kind of works differently, and that's something you need to understand. That it is what aviation used to be 100 years ago in the West. It would supply. It would get people from A to B, post services, and all that kind of stuff. So expectations shouldn't be like high there, but I find it fascinating that also those airports keep on that they're running, and that because imagine your plane goes tech there in Kiritimati, then and you need spare parts and whatever, getting them there and getting a crew out and all that kind of stuff could be quite of a nightmare. So I understand if Nauru Airlines doesn't want to take shit from you guys,
no, they don't take any shit either.
I mean, you're bringing them great passengers, like great.
But even with that, because there's times I've gotten upset and come at them pretty hard, and they basically just said, "Well, don't book it.
Yeah.
If you don't want to do it, if it's too much of a hassle for you, then don't book with us." And I'm like, whoa, wait a second. Let's just dial down the temperature here.
Yeah, but I know
but you know what? But we've always found a solution. That's been the thing.
That is, I think, as well. But like the problem is, especially when you do a least visit, and there's one flight cancellation, it can mean that you can stuck.
It's a delicate house of cards.
Yeah, yeah. And Tuvalu used to be one flight a week. Now it's like every second flight almost, because the power of YouTube.
Yeah.
And the flights are full.
Yeah,
right?
they're three flights a week now.
Yeah. Like they even fly to Suva.
Yeah, it's usually Suva, but there is a direct flight also from Tuvalu to Nandi as well.
Yeah, and that's twice a week.
Yeah, that's twice a week.
And it's impressive, because usually if you make that commitment and you say I'll go to Tuvalu, you have to spend a week in Tuvalu.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, let's move on to the next topic.
No, but it's
island
paradise with nobody there, and you can take a boat out to one of the outer islets. You can take a ferry out to one of the other 8 inhabited islands of Tuvalu.
I'm a history buff, and I love World War II.
Yeah,
it's what I like. I do like. My dad used to have a library, and it was all books about World War II. My family was heavily involved in World War II on both sides, and I find it fascinating on those islands when you go to Tarawa and when you see actually what kind of battle there was.
Yes.
Or you go to Christmas Island after the war, how the British were testing their nuclear weapons there.
Yep.
And
Marshall Islands with the U.S. nuclear testing.
And it gives you an idea. We now still struggle to get from one island to another. Imagine the campaign that the Americans, how powerful the Americans are to conquer island after island, fighting the Japanese, and the logistic behind it. Building airports everywhere and like jumping from island to island. It puts things into perspective what great generation it was.
Absolutely.
The greatest.
And how far we've fallen.
Yes, how far we've.
Yeah.
Well, that's a matter of perspective.
Yeah, it is.
But I think
I'm just joking. But
yeah.
Well, what then? Did you get a sense? Just to quiz you, did you get a sense of Tuvalu's role in the Pacific Theater, World War II?
Yeah,
you were there?
Yeah. Like, I mean, most of the airports, the funny thing is, I'm sure you pull out a story that I haven't heard before.
Well, no, just that it was never under control of the Japanese. And it was just used there wasn't a battle there.
It was attacked, though, a couple of times, I think.
It was the Ellis Islands, right?
Yeah.
It would have been attacked, yeah, but it was mainly used by the Americans as a staging ground for the Battle of Tarawa and also air raids on Nauru.
Yeah. It wasn't that the center of the action wasn't anywhere near Tuvalu at any time. It wasn't as important as Tarawa or other Marshall Islands, for example. But it puts things into perspective. When you do the island hopper, it does stop at Cavaline. You know that spy island, that American spy island that is still there?
Kwajalein.
Yeah,
and that's it's not only is it a spy island, but it's so strategically important because that's where the U.S. keeps its defense systems that will shoot down any incoming. They're there ostensibly under the auspices of shooting down any incoming North Korean missiles or ICBMs that might be launched towards the U.S. But we all know that it's also part of a larger policy of containment for China and Russia.
Yeah, of course.
But that's what they have on Kwajalein, and that's why your average people can't go there. But what you can...
I landed there, though.
Oh, you land there.
Yeah.
But,
and I was not allowed to film. They just said,
they don't let you film from the windows, but you can.
I mean, you can technically. I mean, I no, can't say I did, but I
you can technically.
But there was so much rain there, anyways. I couldn't see anything. But it was fascinating to see that there's a place like this in the middle of nowhere.
But what you can do though is you can actually get off, and you wouldn't stay on Kwajalein. You cannot, as a civilian, you can't stay there unless you're a relative of military personnel, that U.S. military personnel that's stationed there. But you can take a ferry, half hour to Abaya, which is a nearby island, and you can actually overnight there.
Do you have to wear an abaya when you're there?
What is an abaya?
Like the hijab.
That's also called an abaya?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Learn something new every day. All right. Well, so I think we agree Fiji Airways for Pacific, right?
Fiji, Qantas.
Yeah, we could also count Australia.
Yeah, Qantas, Air New Zealand, and I mean, those are the big players in the Pacific, yeah.
And North America.
North America is a different kind of aviation scene. I think it's just very busy, and you get nothing really in return. Like, American carriers aren't the greatest, and they always say Air Canada is the best airline in North America, and Air Canada is like the bottom of the barrel. It depends, yeah. Like, America is very getting you from A to B, and there is no, like, people say, oh, Delta is a fantastic airline, which they are not. They just look great because all the others are so bad. But let's move on to the next continent.
Okay.
Well, what's your favorite airline in the U.S.? You're an American?
I was always Delta loyal. And Sky Team loyal. It was either that or Star Alliance, and I was just never a big fan of United. Certainly not American Airlines. It's Delta.
Yeah, I mean, Delta is probably a good choice.
Yeah, but there were always factors with that. Like, for instance, my mother lived in Atlanta, which is Delta headquarters, so I was going down there. Anyway, I digress. Middle East. Oh,
now we're talking.
Yes.
Now we're talking. Depends what you want.
You almost have ecstasy on your face when you're talking about the Middle Eastern airline carriers.
Yeah, because they are pretty good. Okay, let's say, when you fly in economy, what is important to you?
I mean, for me, I'm very simple. I just want to have enough room so that I'm not spilling into the seat next to me, or someone isn't in my seat, and that I'm able to sleep, pretty much.
You're not the kind of, you don't enjoy the in-flight entertainment, for example, you are you're a movie kind of guy. You, like, I follow you on Instagram, and you're heavily involved you're a filmmaker, let's say it that way. So I could imagine that when you fly from Atlanta to Dubai, 15 hours, that you would enjoy a bit of a variety.
Well, I'll see I will always check out the in-flight.
Do you get drunk on the flights?
No, I am a drinker.
I know you're a big drinker.
Yeah, but I tend to, I try not to get drunk on the flight because I don't like showing up.
Are you aisle or window kind of guy?
Window, so I can lean against the... Yeah, I have to be able to lean against something. And then in America in particular, one of my least favorite things about American carriers is when you have an aisle seat and the the flight attendants come barreling down the aisle and just plow into your shoulder as they come by. That's one of my least favorite things.
All right, yeah. So, for example, you said you like to sit in a window, you like to lean against something. Like, so when you, for example, you make a conscious choice of like flying Emirates 380, the 380 literally has, like, you know how it's usually the walls are round, right? Because it's an airplane, it's a tube. The 380, on the main deck, it's actually like a vertical, like a straight wall. So you have extra space when you sit at the window because the plane is so big, you know, and that's a feature unique to the Airbus 380. So if you sit at the window, you have so much more extra space where it actually feels like a little bit upgraded. It has the greatest in-flight entertainment in the world.
I have experienced all this.
Yeah. So they have so many movies where you can entertain yourself very, very heavily. And let's say you are the business traveler and you like Starlink, you fly Qatar Airways, you know, you get your own suite. I was on a flight from Boston to Doha recently. I had Starlink for the first time. You can video call the flight.
And they don't stop you? They don't have a...
Well, if you're not being a douche, you know, you know those kind of people that they just sit next to you at the gate and they put the phone on speaker?
Yes.
Yeah. That's great people, no?
Yes.
Yeah, fantastic people. If you're not one of those, then they let you. They require you to use your headphones. But this is like where the Middle Eastern airlines, the transit experiences are usually pretty good. Probably not right now because you might get hit by a drone. But there is the Middle Eastern carriers are pretty good. They are the leading airlines as well.
Yes.
And then when we get to Southeast Asia, there are a couple of airlines that rival them, but they are very innovative.
Okay.
They're very, you like the hips of the cabin crews are usually more aerodynamic.
Yes.
Let's say that way. You know?
So they come to
they will not bump into you when
down
you
the aisle.
Yeah. They will be smooth.
Yes.
When they walk past you, they will be smooth and they will be aerodynamic and they will be like a bliss, you know.
Bliss,
so
yes. Okay, so that's all part of the experience.
I love that there's no cancel culture anymore, so we can finally say these kind of things. So I love that.
Until we get some hate mail. I've had some hate mail about the podcast. When we had General Butt Naked on, I had some email. How could you have an African warlord on there? Anyway, Europe.
Oh, Europe. I think what stands out in Europe is when you go on a British Airways flight and you love that Britishness. You know? You like that British accent and you like that British small
They're proud
talk.
of their pounds.
Then this is the airline for you, right? You indulge in British Airways to surf, to fly. That's what they have on their badges, and I like that. I love getting. Well, when you fly Air France, and you love to be shouted at, you know, this is or you want to be, or you like a strong, firm conversation in German. Ja, take your seat now, mein friend. So this is like you get characters there. You get the culture, and I think. When you get Lufthansa, you know that you're on a German airline. When you fly British Airways, you know that you're on a British airline. And when you fly Air France, you know that you are on a French airline. So character, definitely. Just probably as miserable as US carriers in terms of their products, their seats. But they are picking up as well. Or if you want to have a terrible transit experience, Charles de Gaulle.
It's terrible. Yeah.
Terrible. Most of the infrastructure in Europe is dated, and that is part of the experience. That is something in the US when you fly domestically. You can get a nice first class seat or a business class seat. Like let's say a recliner seat, right?
Yes.
We don't have that in Europe. In Europe, business class is a block middle seat. So you have the identical seat that the guy gets in economy on the 320, for example. We don't operate wide-body planes within Europe. It's mostly 320s or 737s. In the business class, there is a block middle seat. You get a hot meal because when you fly Lufthansa, you get a bottle of water. though it's a full but this is then again we have Ryanair and EasyJet where you can fly from London to Dubrovnik or whatever, because Americans love Dubrovnik. You can fly there for $15. You know, this is something you don't have in America.
Yeah, it's true.
And this is then again the advantage of flying within Europe. It's very cheap, and connectivity is great. We have Ryanair, we have EasyJet, we have Wizz Air. Have you heard of Wizz Air?
Of course.
Yeah.
Fantastic too, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, shout out to my friend Rowan. Rowan loved Wizz Air. Yeah, but Wizz Air pulled out of Abu Dhabi. Yeah, so I was like, sorry, rest in peace.
He won't be whizzing about.
Yeah.
All right, and we're going to talk about Rowan in a second. And then, okay, so Asia.
Asia is all about service. Asian people, you have a Asian wife, right? Is that correct?
I do.
Can we disclose this? I don't know, like what you have a wife,
yeah. Sure.
So your wife is from the Philippines, and they're hospitality champions.
Yes, indeed.
They know how to make you feel great. So if I go on a Philippine Airlines flight, I know it's going to be good. Like mabuhay, welcome on Philippine Airlines.
Hello, and mabuhay.
Yeah, and they're great. Singapore Airlines, you look at them, grooming. Korean Airlines, you look at the grooming that they have, that ribbon in their hair, and immaculate uniforms. They are delivering that hospitality experience. Not like in Delta, where your cabin crew most likely gets pushed on the plane in a wheelchair because the union can't fire them.
Right.
You will have young, dedicated, ambitious, hospitality-loving Asians that do a fantastic job. Singapore Airlines, one of the best airlines in the world. Yes. Philippine Airlines is definitely...
You would rate Philippine Airlines up there.
Yeah, okay. Definitely. Like they're great. They're great. Japan Airlines... They might be a bit more distant in their approach. They don't have that kind of small talk culture there. They're just like, oh, leave me alone. And while on many airlines like Singapore Airlines, Malaysia Airlines, they're good. But then even you go to a country like Myanmar. I was Burma. I don't know what you say. What do you get educated on?
It'll always be Burma to me. No,
Burma to you.
Myanmar.
Myanmar. You never know. Some people say it's Burma. Some say whatever. But even if
I went to Siam.
Yeah,
it's not Thailand. Siam.
That's right. Formerly, yeah. You gotta be. I don't think they. No, I think they still use it.
In
their local language.
Yeah,
they don't say Bangkok either.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They say something else, but I don't know what it is. But they don't call it Bangkok.
Right.
Bangkok is for foreigners. In Singapore, they say they also have a word for foreigner in Singapore. Angmo.
Right. But anyway, you were saying Myanmar.
Myanmar. You go on Myanmar Airlines, and you still have a fantastic flight. And though they are a country that is in shambles, like in troubles and stuff like that, but you still know that you're going to have a fantastic flight. And gotta exclude India a little bit when we speak of air, because they struggle and Indians aren't. You either have a great flight or a very bad flight on air.
Well, I was going to actually include, I was going to say Africa / like Indian Ocean was going to be my next.
Don't get into troubles here, Justin. We have to differentiate heavily between African carriers and South Asian airlines. So Sri Lankan Airlines, great airline, fantastic hospitality.
Yeah, you lived in Sri Lanka.
I lived in Sri Lanka for many years. Fantastic. I mean, they have other problems, corruption and such. So the hard product is very outdated, but the crew is fantastic. With Air India, you get a lot of attitude. Because most of the cabin crews, they think they're Bollywood models and they should be treated as such, and they can be difficult, but it can also be fantastic.
One time I flew Air India and bed bugs going.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of surprises there. Hygiene isn't the greatest, but this is like things where we can either be political correct or we can point that out, and that's what my videos are famous for. I said if there's something that isn't, that you need to speak about it, because when you speak about it, airlines see it and they change it, right? So sometimes you have those planes are in terrible conditions, and these airlines, they have the ambition to be global players. Air India used to be one of the greatest airlines in the world. Back in the days, if you fly Air India, the Maharaja, it was fantastic. PIA, Pakistan International, great people to fly with. PIA is actually the founding father of Emirates. So Emirates, PIA, Pakistan International Airlines, gave the first 2 planes to Emirates. Yeah, and the code of Emirates is EK, which means Emirates Karachi, because Karachi were their first flight, because the Pakistan market was so big for Emirates, and they used to train the crew, because the slogan "Great people to fly with" comes from John F. Kennedy's wife. What was her name?
Is it Jacqueline Kennedy?
I think it is Jackie. Yeah,
Jackie Kennedy.
Yeah, and she was, and she disembarked a PIA flight.
With that, but
yeah, you were American. I shouldn't know, but like that is she disembarked that flight. She was flying PIA. And then
I've been thinking about RFK.
RFK, yeah, he's your current health minister or whatever,
or their equivalent of health minister.
Yeah, exactly. And then she asked, how was your flight on Pakistan International? She said, "Oh, great people to fly with." And until today, it's your slogan.
Amazing! I never knew that.
Yeah, that is it. You didn't just spread democracy. Also, great slogans. There's good airlines there, and they're doing really well. And I'm glad to see that. Aviation is everything.
Yeah,
and you've learned that again this week. No, like planes don't fly, you don't have customers.
Yes, it's true. And all right, last one, Africa.
How much time do you have? Africa has it's politics that suffer. Like, so everyone wants to earn money in Africa. It's just like a trade. Like, if there's a new, let's say Qatar Airways announces flight to Namibia, Windhoek, everyone wants to earn there. So they make it very difficult for you to fly to new destinations, because somebody will show up last minute and say, hey, the tax to land here has raised by 50% overnight. And politically, they don't have open sky agreements. So in Europe functions, or we have those cheap prices because the sky is open. The US kind of functions in the same way. But if you charge horrendous prices to overfly or landing rights and such, it hinders the airlines to grow and to connect. Infrastructure there is very difficult as well, conflicts. And so the only airline that really functions properly in Africa is Ethiopian Airlines. Mm-hmm. They have a great hub, a very new fleet, and they do a really good job.
Remember a Sky Team as well?
The Sky Team, or I think they're Star Alliance.
Oh, sorry. Thinking of Kenyan.
Their Sky Team. That is correct. Yeah. And but like this, we right now we see the comebacks of African flag carriers. Mm-hmm. For example, Uganda Airlines. They all were fantastic airlines back in the days, and then they all disappeared. And now they're kind of coming back. But some, they struggle because corruption is a big problem within the airlines, strategies, and they buy new, beautiful planes. Which I've delivered a plane to that president from Uganda. What's his name? He's been in office since I was born, 1986. And what is the name? Like, can you Google? Yeah. Museveni.
Yep.
Museveni was there. I literally delivered a plane to him, and now those planes are grounded because of corruptions, mismanagement, and such. So that's a problem in Africa, that they are very ambitious, but they don't have the expertise, and it's hard for them to get landing rights. Infrastructure is poor. They have conflicts with other airlines. Nigeria is a great example. Massive market. Then they won't get slots. Things get political. There is a lot of potential, but if the African countries would come together and all agree on an open sky agreement, that would bring so much fortune to that continent. African airlines are generally, in terms of service, they're great. You know, when you fly South African Airways or Kenya Airways or such, the crew is always lovely. They have a great attitude, and they're trying very hard. And they're very proud of their flag carriers, but they suffer from other issues.
Right.
Unfortunately, but I see them coming. They're coming, but we'll see how that is going to develop.
Okay, and I wanted to talk a little bit about, before we wrap up here, I wanted to talk about the Rowan Beard story I have in my notes here. Rowan Beard story.
Who's Rowan Beard?
Rowan Weird.
Rowan Weird.
Rowan Weird, as we call him here on the podcast. So, and I'm sure you know about this, because as you were dealing with your Mongolia sojourn and all that, Rowan had an incident where he was coming back from Indonesia. He was flying out of Jakarta, and Iranian airstrikes led to the closure of UAE airspace, and he had a 28-hour journey flying from Indonesia to Muscat, and then a 12-hour road trip through Oman to reach Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, so he was in the news.
Yes, he was in the news.
What a man, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
He was getting back to his wife.
Inspiring story.
Yep, as I read about it. So when you hear a story like this, despite the fact that he's your friend, what is the kind of thing aviation professionals expect during like airspace shutdowns, and what is there anything that Rowan could have done differently in his situation? Or was that really the only
He should have come to Manila and have spent some time with his boy.
He should be on this podcast.
He should be here right now.
Okay.
And after this, we should go and have some Korean barbecue, get drunk, and have a good time.
In his honor.
Yeah.
We'll send him a picture. Wish you were here.
He should have been here, but he decided to go home to his wife, which I understand. I mean, Abu Dhabi was hit quite heavily as well, and the Iron Dome of the UAE is standing strong.
Yep. And we'll see what happens. I mean, Iran says do you think it's propaganda, or do you think it's true that Iran is saying they're going through their old stockpile first before they get to
I think it's
the big secret weapon?
I don't think. To be honest, I don't think they have much more to give.
Okay.
And you see the numbers right now. He had 100, 200 strikes a day in the first day, and then it decreases by day. And right now, things have changed a lot. Like by the end of the day, what I think is like all those systems, those Iron Domes, are all like American technology, right? It's all what America sold to.
Well, they have some. Trump was talking about they have some Tomahawks, because the media acted like this was a big surprise, and Trump just said, "Well, it's a product. It gets sold."
Yeah, I mean, I think America should get a lot more credit, because it's in the end it's the American. Okay, good. The Americans started the war, but whether it's right or wrong, that's a question that's for you to decide.
It's not for us to tackle today.
But I've been to Iran many times, and I have Iranian friends, and most of them, they want to be free. They want to be liberated from those people. But these systems that save so many lives, those American systems, right? That system,
that, and we're talking about the UAE Iron Dome.
The Iron Dome, yeah, and all that stuff. Like it is all American made, and that shows you how important these things are. But and it saves a lot of lives. And I think coming back to Rowan, flying to Oman, risky move, because you never know how long the airspace really stays open. And I think that's the plan of the Iranians. Cause frustrations, right? And make airlines lose a lot of money, make those people get frustrated. And America is a big partner of the Middle East. They're especially like Saudi, UAE, Qatar. They're best friends, and I think this is what they do. Just have people lose money, and this is when usually friendships ends. Yeah. When you don't make money anymore, you don't make enough, you can't sustain your lifestyle, and things are starting to get expensive. This is when you reconsider friendships. And I think this is the strategy of Iran, just to annoy them as long as they can. And Rowan miraculously made it back to Muscat and took a bus and crossed the border while under fire, heavy fire.
I think it took a bus and then a taxi.
I took then a taxi, and I know that those countries aren't really designed for bus travels and such. And then he got home to his wife, and I think that was a pretty interesting story. He should have filmed this for his YouTube channel or for the YPT YouTube channel.
You would have.
That you guys started many years in Dandong.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, I remember the first videos.
Yep.
Back in the days.
Yep. Back when I was brought on just as a video producer and editor.
I'm so surprised
that was my only responsibility back in those days.
I'm like so sad that we actually didn't talk much about North Korean aviation, because that
we touched upon it the last time. We'll that is no update. The only update is the Pyongyang marathon got canceled, so it doesn't look good. That's
sad.
Yeah,
because I think that was kind of
well. If we're talking about the situation right now, so a lot of people are saying that we were talking about this morning. It was the first thing I talked about when I woke up. I had a DM from Josh, and he was saying that the Pyongyang marathon was canceled. Of course, that was news yesterday. So I said, "You're too late." And he said, "Well, you said, well, okay, this is it. There is no North Korea." And, obviously I want to try to find an optimistic angle with this. And we know that when Rason briefly reopened to tourists, which we spearheaded last February, it was shut down likely because the North Koreans didn't like some of the coverage that was brought in by some of the influencers that we had with us, and also that traveled with one of our competitors. But then they had the Pyongyang Marathon, where they had hundreds in last April, where they had hundreds of customers in and runners, and you had quite a few YouTubers. And then they were going forward with the marathon for this year, which seemed like everything was fine. I know that one of our competitors had about 500 people signed up for it.
Were you selling this tour as well?
No, we were not. Oh. But they had about 500 people signed up. And, this was just common industry knowledge. And but it looks like they've canceled just in the past few days. This is a little over a month before the marathon was scheduled, or I think about a month. And curiously, it'd be one thing that if it was just closed to Western runners, but the fact that it looks like the whole event is canceled except to local runners. So that means there's no Westerners, there's no Russians, there's no Chinese. Westerners and Chinese, not surprising, but the fact, because Russians right now, given the special relationship between North Korea and Russia at this particular time, and Russians being the only tourists allowed in right now, so the fact that it's canceled for them as well leads me to believe it's not to do with specific concerns over influencers or Western tourists. I think it might be, and because we're talking about this, heightened security concerns because of the situation that's going on in Iran. In other words, if the U.S. is going trigger happy right now with regime change, first you had Maduro, right? Now you've got the situation in Iran.
Cuba is next, apparently.
Cuba may be next, and so the North Koreans might be looking at it and just saying, "Well, maybe we should play this.
But
better be safe than sorry."
They have a nuclear bomb, so
they do.
Yeah,
but
that's their life insurance.
And they see that gamble seems to be paying off.
And they're not a troublemaker. I think North Koreans, they live in their own little bubble. They don't bother anyone. It's not like Iran.
Well, except for when they sink a South Korean ship or they shell a South Korean island, but that was like.
Yeah, but that was like long time ago. I feel like they live happily in their bubble. You know what? I believe that they are the happiest people on earth. I know it's like a wild call to make, but I think when you live away from this internet bubble and you're not overloaded with all the news and everything that we go through every day, because I think everyone I know is depressed. Everyone reads the news. It's the climate hysteria. It is the wars. It is everything. The world seems to come to an end when you spend a lot of time on Twitter. And now imagine you live in a little country where there's no internet, where you don't get bothered by those news. You do your job. You still read a book. I feel like that's
there are pluses and minuses to every system.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of things that North Korea gets wrong, of course, but nobody really does talk about the things that North Korea gets right. And that's one of those things when you're in North Korea and you go to one of these school children's palaces and the children do the performance. Yes, of course, there's going to be a certain amount of expectation and pressure that are placed on those kids that one might argue is unfair to those kids. But on the other hand, it's amazing what kids can do when they're not playing Angry Birds and whatever bullshit on the tablet or on the phone. Yeah. And, then they can learn to play these musical instruments.
I mean, they just don't have that overload of information, which is toxic to the brain. And like, I mean, the brain is a muscle, and if you don't need it anymore, you know, I still that generation.
They don't have the brain rot.
Yeah. I mean, you replace it. Like back in the days, I still know how to use a map, right? When I surfed and when I traveled back in the days, there was no Google Maps, right? So I still had to do these kind of things. But now you rely for everything on your phone. So everything that your brain doesn't need anymore just disappears.
Yep.
You know, it's like a muscle. If you don't go running anymore or whatever, then you don't work out. It just builds, like, you don't build anything up. So I mean, there's some terrible things are happening in that country as well if you have other ambitions. But I think in that sense, let's say in 200 years, we would then take an American citizen and a North Korean citizen. There would probably be even like differences in how they develop. The other one probably has no attention span anymore.
Right.
While the Korean can handle all the difficult tasks and stuff like that, has an attention span, can do this and that. That is what I find interesting in that perspective. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, some people think America is the big Satan, the other think North Korea is the worst country on earth. That, apart from that political perspective, it'd be interesting to see how that develops over the years, because I think the internet...
We do an anthropological study.
Yeah.
Later,
you take the bodies, you take the brains out, and then you look at them, and then you think like, wow, super brain and no brain.
Well, we'll see. I mean, if the singularity happens in our lifetime and we're able to upload our consciousness to, then you and I can witness this.
That is right. And I just wanted to just say, because we were talking about Iran all day, that because Iran was so sanctioned, you have still amazing planes there, and that you don't find anywhere else. So I always call it the Disneyland of aviation, because when you go to Iran, you can fly planes that you don't find anywhere else anymore. Airbus A300, Airbus A310s, the last 747-100, 2 of them were bombed yesterday. So they took it away from us. So we will never be able to fly them anymore again. And this is also where I think, like, North Korea preserved this, Iran preserved this in terms of aviation. That was also very sad to see. Or when when Russia invaded Ukraine, the Antonov 225, the largest plane on Earth, destroyed. First days of the war in Hostomel, like the airport where the Spasnos, the special troops of the Russian, landed there in their helicopters and got their asses beaten. But that plane got destroyed as well. You know, the largest plane that had like 6 engines. You know, like a 747 has twin engine, and then it's a beast. It's a beast. Like, it used to carry the Burat, the space shuttle, the Russian space shuttle, and now it's like it was used for very heavy cargo missions. And this is what pisses me off about the war. You know, where these relics of a different time, you know, they just get destroyed and you never get to see them again. I will never see. My dream was to see the Antonov 225 land somewhere, because it would always have, like, it would fly, I'd say 10 missions a year. And wherever that plane would go, whether it goes to North America or Europe, people would gather at the airport with their cameras. And it was an event when these planes land.
When was the last time the 225...
just before the war, when it's like 2022, I think 3 or 4 weeks before, it was still flying, and you would always know where it is. It even had, do you know Flight Radar, right?
Yeah.
And it even had its own icon on Flight Radar, because it looked very specific with the 6 engines, a massive plane. And yeah, it's been destroyed and it's gone. And it's the same. That's with Iran right now, where those 747, the last 747-100 is 52 years old, used by the Iranian military, but it would still also do sometimes civilian flights domestically, where this would have been a dream for me to fly. And this is where I just hope that North Korea never gets invaded, because then we will lose all those Russian beauties, those Tupolevs, those Ilyushin 62s and Antonovs and all that kind of stuff. So if someone is listening, last time somebody was listening from the US government and released my Give Me a Visa. So now, if you're listening, if you're in the Pentagon right now and you're listening to this podcast, please don't destroy those beautiful old planes. We still need them because we want to do YPT aviation tours, right?
Yes, we do.
And show people time travel in the back good old days when you had sufficient legroom.
Yes, and okay, well then to the U.S. State Department or the Department of War, we say more love letters to Kim Jong-un, less bombs, no bombs.
Don't bomb airports. Like when you look at the airports, you have this amazing satellite imagery, I think. So if you see something special, don't destroy it. Leave it.
Yes.
For other generations so they can enjoy them as well, you know, like a good old timer and stuff like that. So have a heart for aviation lovers. Spare them.
And speaking of aviation lovers, and this is going to be my final question before we sign off here. So, because we're talking about these things that can happen. So for people who love flying as much as you do, what airlines should people absolutely try before they might disappear?
That is a good one. Can Americans go to Cuba? Again, right?
Yes.
So Cubana is, for example, something.
Could be something.
They have Ilyushin 96. That is very rare. This is the only wide-body plane that is flying that is not manufactured in the West. They have also have Tupolevs that used to. I did a video on that. They fly Caracas to Havana. That's something that you put on your list. So if you are located in this area. Obviously, Iran is a little bit difficult right now. The Holy Grail, Air Koryo. You know, Air Koryo, this is the only, like, I want to retire from this YouTube one day, but I can't retire before I haven't been on Air Koryo. So everyone who has been on Air Koryo, that is the Holy Grail. This is like the level, the highest that you can achieve. And but there's less and less gems in the aviation industry because all the fleets have been modernized and it's always the same planes right now. So in terms of airlines, I think we're coming to an end of the great times of aviation.
The golden era?
The golden era, you know, is about to end.
Okay. You don't think the golden era is upon us?
In terms of flying for cheap?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. You know, now everyone can travel. But if you used to be a lover, you know, and if for you it matters whether you want to fly with an Antonov, a Tupolev, all the old planes at MD-11s, those days are over. They're coming to an end. And the pandemic was one factor. Like a lot of those 747 Super Jumbos, they retired. Barely find any of those nowadays, and now everything is just streamlined and you have twin engine planes and nothing exciting anymore. I think this time is coming to an end, and this is why we need to preserve them, and this is why I probably also make those videos, because in 10 years from now there are airlines or planes that you can see on my channel that nobody will ever get to fly anymore, and all we have is those videos, you know, and that's why it was, why you do stupid YouTube videos, nobody watches them. No, but they have value in terms of this is what it used to be, flying this kind of plane. So yeah, and so always heavy-hearted when I see that the Americans and Israelis did strike that airport, which probably makes sense. There were probably fighter jets or whatever, but they also killed a few gems or destroyed them, and we will never get them back. So yeah, I think the golden era is coming to an end, and I don't know what's next. Space travel?
Yeah.
Time travel?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm up for either. Which would you do first?
Oh, time travel. 100%.
Time travel first.
Yeah, but I think it's been proven that there's no time travel, because I think Stephen Hawking would have removed himself from the Epstein files and didn't. So I don't think there's time travel. wish though it would be invented. Yeah.
And on that note, if you'd like to see some of these planes that nobody will ever have a chance to fly again or soon, and you want to also explore all these in depth, a lot of these questions we were talking about, which is the best carrier in this region, what's the best one for first class, what's the best one for economy, the best food, etc., go right over to Josh's YouTube channel. That's at Josh Cahill. And then also you should have a listen to Josh's new podcast, the Josh Cahill and Swiss 001 show that has just dropped and started. Have a listen to that, and they're going to get into a lot of these questions a lot more in depth even than we are now. Josh, I appreciate you coming back here and joining us at our studio here in Sin City, Manila, Philippines. And will you come back?
Oh, 100%. It's always good fun with you. I think if I ever look for a co-host, and I will hire you. I think you're doing an exceptional job. I love your podcast. I love the research that you do. I love your questions, and you're fun to talk to, and even more fun to have a beer with. I think that's also we need to point that out. But I have always a great time.
Except for when they get into fights.
Yeah, don't get into bar fights. But other than that, it was a big pleasure again to be here, and I hope we do the same next year.
Yes.
Yeah, after...
We'll do a catch-up next year.
Absolutely. And then we see what the aviation industry looks like then, and which crisis we have to talk about. Hopefully none. But I'm sure that ever since our first podcast, you kind of look at what kind of plane you're actually on and where you fly and what kind of plane it is, I guess.
Yes, I certainly do more now. Still not an expert, but give me another year. And I'm going to keep working on it. All right. Well, and thank you, Josh, for joining us. And this has been another episode of the Young Pioneer Podcast. I'm Justin Martell, and we will talk to you again soon. Take care much. Good night and good luck.